The stars over the Persian expanse burned cold and unfeeling, glittering like shattered diamonds scattered across a cosmic sea. For 10,000 years, the galaxy had been quiet. Civilizations rose, empires fell, species warred and made peace again, but humanity, those ghosts from ancient myths, had vanished. Their worlds were silent, their colonies dead, their fleets reduced to drifting hulks swallowed by nebulae and dust. To most, humans were nothing but a story told to frighten or inspire. The monsters that once burned half the spiral arm, the saviors who built the ancient hypergates, the architects of impossible weapons that even now defied replication. And then, one night, in the void between the Dominion and the Ascendant axis, a ship appeared. It came out of nowhere. No translite wake. No detectable quantum signature. One moment, the starfield was empty, then reality folded, and a massive vessel hung there, eclipsing suns. The first to see it were miners on the edge of the Vorten belt. Their scanners fried instantly. Their comms died. They described, before the silence, a ship made of light and shadow, blacker than vacuum but rimmed in burning gold, its hull alive with faint movement as if the metal itself breathed. And then every system within 5 light minutes went dark. No sound. No signal. Just silence. Within hours, Dominion scouts arrived. They circled it cautiously, broadcasting warnings and queries in 100 languages. The ship didn't move. It didn't answer. Its hull absorbed every scan, every probe, every particle beam that touched it. The Dominion sent a cruiser to investigate. The cruiser vanished. No explosion, no debris, just gone, erased as though it never existed. By the next galactic cycle, news spread like wildfire. An unknown superstructure had appeared. The Galactic Concord assembled. The Axis sent battle fleets. The Union of Rings, the Kralek Hegemony, and even the Ether Collective all converged. Billions watched the holofeeds as armadas filled the system. It was the largest gathering of warships in 5 millennia. And then, for the first time, the ship moved. No engines flared. No gravity well shifted. It simply turned. Slowly. Deliberately. As if looking at them. The fleets panicked. Some opened fire. The void lit up with beams, torpedoes, and quantum lances bright enough to blind planets. The combined power of 1,000 worlds struck the object. And was swallowed. The energy vanished, absorbed into the hull like water into sand. Then a voice rolled through every mind, every channel, every piece of metal that carried a frequency. It was human. Stand down. 2 words. Calm. Cold. Final. The shockwave that followed wasn't physical. It was psychic, memory, resonance, a deep, genetic terror awakening in every non-human mind. For all their evolution, for all their arrogance, they remembered. Their ancestors remembered. The last time humanity had spoken across the stars, worlds had burned. The Dominion Chancellor screamed orders. Firing resumed. And then the human ship finally answered. Light erupted from it, not beams, not weapons, just light. The kind that bid time and space, unraveling reality itself. Ships disintegrated into dust. The warlords of the Axis vanished from existence, their names deleted from history. Entire fleets simply turned to motes of energy drifting in silence. When it ended, only debris remained, and one message transmitted across the entire galactic net. This is the ISS Soul's Wrath. Humanity has returned. The galaxy convulsed in chaos. Every government, every race, every empire screamed for explanation. Who were they? How could they exist? Why now, after 10,000 years? Theories spread. Some said it wasn't truly human, but an AI remnant. Others believed it was a god ship, an artifact of a dead civilization. But then, across the spiral arm, the impossible kept happening. Worlds that had once belonged to the old human empire began reactivating. Ancient satellites awoke. Stations long thought derelict turned on. On the ashes of forgotten planets, beacon pylons rose, pulsing blue with quantum code older than recorded history. And the same signal repeated across every channel. Protocol Genesis, Humanity Ascendant. Panic erupted. The Ascendant Axis declared a state of emergency. The Dominion recalled its border fleets. The Kralek hegemony began immediate evacuation from the Sol Fringe, declaring the area cursed. But the humans, if that's what they were, didn't chase them. The ISS Sol's Wrath simply drifted, vast and silent, to the edge of the system, its golden hull gleaming like a sunrise. On the second week, Dominion science vessels tried again, this time from extreme range, using quantum-tethered drones. The moment one touched the ship's field, its feed showed, briefly, images. Earth. Blue oceans. White clouds. Cities of glass and light. And then faces, human faces, staring back, unblinking, as if watching through time itself. Then the drone melted. The message returned again. Do not approach. Observation in progress. And so the waiting began. Empires watched, terrified. Religions rose and fell in days. Some species began worshipping the ship as a god. Others built weapons to destroy it. But in the dark between galaxies, in the places where no empire ruled, whispers spread. The human survivors had returned from beyond the galactic rim. From the event horizon of creation itself. And this ship, this single vessel, was only the first. The war that would consume the stars had begun not with armies, but with a single breath. Because humanity did not ask for permission. Humanity never had. And the galaxy, once again, would learn why their name was spoken in fear. The Sol's Wrath drifted through the void like a sleeping god. Its hull shimmered with spectral fire, impossible geometry sliding across its surface. Every attempt to analyze it returned nonsense. Mathematical paradoxes, recursive loops, fragments of code that translated into ancient human poetry, and warnings in languages no one remembered. It was alive, or at least, something inside it was. Weeks passed. Then months. The galaxy waited, trembling, on the edge of revelation or extinction. The Dominion deployed half its navy around the quarantine system, building a fortress ring of stations and plasma platforms. The Ascendant Axis mobilized their psychic fleets, preparing to assault what they called the Abomination. Every empire, even the smaller ones, the Tolar, the Karin, the Dree, watched and wondered. The first spark came from within. A pulse of light erupted from the Sol's Wrath, expanding outward at the speed of thought. Every ship, every mind in range heard the same voice again, this time softer, mournful, but resolute. Coordinates accepted. Beacon synchronization complete. Across the galaxy, on 100 forgotten human worlds, ancient defense grids flickered to life. Old orbital rings, buried beneath centuries of sand and jungle, began rotating again. Planetary AIs, long dormant, awoke screaming in binary. Space folded, and gateways, old human hypergates that hadn't worked in 10,000 years, suddenly reignited, their blue fire cascading across the void. Humanity's network was back online. The Concord panicked. The Kralek hegemony fired missiles at their nearest gate, trying to destroy it before it fully opened. They failed. The gate absorbed the energy, shimmered, and then fired it back tenfold. The planet below ceased to exist, leaving only molten glass. The message followed moments later. Unauthorized interference with Terran infrastructure is prohibited. Further violation will result in corrective action. For the first time, the galaxy realized what they faced was not a derelict relic. It was an active system. An empire waking up. The Sol's Wrath moved again. This time it didn't teleport or vanish. It accelerated, bending space-time in a way no drive could. The Dominion fleets tried to shadow it, but every sensor, every attempt to lock on failed. The ship simply blurred, leaving behind echoes in quantum flux. It arrived above the dead world of Theta Praxia 3, a long-frozen wasteland once believed to have been humanity's final outpost. When the Soul's Wrath appeared, the ice began to melt. Beneath the surface, titanic structures stirred, machines the size of continents grinding to life, rising slowly toward the surface, shaking the crust apart. A Dominion probe caught the transmission before being obliterated. Arc Vault 7, reinitializing. Humanity database restoration at 2%. No one knew what it meant, until the seismic readings showed something impossible. Beneath the ice, billions of neural capsules began to hum. Stored consciousness. Digital souls. The humans hadn't vanished, they had uploaded. They had survived in silence, waiting for reawakening. Every empire now faced a choice: flee or fight. The Ascendant Axis chose war. Their armada was legendary: 10,000 ships powered by psionic cores, capable of tearing stars apart. They entered the Praxian system screaming battle hymns. The Soul's Wrath did not move. The Axis opened fire. Reality split. Not in space, not in time, but deeper, in causality itself. The energy from their attack froze mid-flight, hanging like molten glass between them. The human ship's voice returned, this time amplified by something ancient and terrible. Cease hostilities. You are not authorized to interfere with Project Continuum. The Axis ignored it. They fired again. The Soul's Wrath responded. Its hull brightened until it was blinding. Beams of pure thought lanced outward, not light, not energy, but information. Ships hit by them didn't explode, they forgot. Whole fleets lost their identity, their memory, their purpose. Commanders screamed as they forgot their own names. Crew forgot how to breathe. AI cores collapsed into infant algorithms. Within seconds, the entire Axis fleet was gone, reduced to drifting shells filled with beings who no longer remembered they had ever been alive. The galaxy fell silent. And then something even more terrifying happened. The Soul's Wrath began transmitting. Not words. Not threats. But music. Soft. Human. Ancient. A lullaby that echoed across the stars. A melody every sentient species somehow recognized but could not place. Historians realized why. They had all evolved under human influence. In forgotten ages, humanity had seeded the galaxy with DNA, art, sound. Their songs were written into the foundation of creation itself. Now, the melody was a signal. More ships appeared. From every gate, every dark region beyond the rim, titanic vessels emerged, each unique, each monumental in scale, bearing names that froze the blood of scholars. ISS Dawnbreaker. ISS St. Helios. ISS Eternum. Humanity had not returned as a nation. They had returned as a civilization reborn. Every one of those ships carried millions of human minds, restored from digital vaults. Every one of them burned with golden energy, the light of an old, forgotten sun. And every one of them broadcast the same declaration. We remember who we are. We remember what was done. The age of silence ends. Panic consumed the galaxy. The Concord tried to negotiate, sending envoys. None returned. The humans weren't listening. Their purpose was beyond politics, beyond vengeance. They were restoring their dominion, recalibrating what they called the continuum of man. But others whispered something darker. That humanity was not merely rebuilding. They were rewriting reality itself. Because every system they entered began to change. Gravity stabilized. Energy output increased. Biological diversity bloomed. Planets scarred by war began to heal. To the frightened empires, this was unnatural, terraforming on a godlike scale. To the humans, it was mercy. And mercy, they remembered, was something the galaxy had long since forgotten. The war truly began when the Dominion fired the first black hole warhead. The weapon, forbidden since the Age of Chaos, tore open a wound in spacetime the size of a moon. It devoured everything: light, energy, matter. The soul's wrath was caught at its center. For a moment, hope flared across the empires. They had destroyed the god ship. Then, the black hole collapsed outward. The energy released vaporized 3 stars. And from the expanding light emerged the soul's wrath, unchanged. Its hull was glowing white-hot, inscriptions across its surface shifting like living language. Its voice returned, no longer calm. "You have made your choice." The ship turned toward Dominion Prime. And the war of extinction began. The void trembled. Every relay, every sensor, every deep space beacon across the galactic rim lit with red warning. The soul's wrath was moving toward Dominion Prime. Its trajectory was straight, deliberate, unstoppable. The Dominion High Council screamed orders to their fleets, summoning every war asset they had built in 10,000 years. 50,000 ships, 20 planetary cannons, orbital rings bristling with antimatter lances, an empire's entire pride assembled in one system. The sky above Dominion Prime became a metal storm, a living wall of firepower. On the surface, billions watched the heavens darken as war engines ignited. The people were terrified, praying to 1,000 gods, whispering names that had not been spoken since before light touched their world. The children of the Dominion, raised to believe humanity was myth, suddenly realized the monsters of history had come home. And then, the human ship arrived. No warp gate. No transition. Just a distortion in the air, a silent bloom of light, and the soul's wrath hung there above the Dominion's capital like a second moon. Every Dominion gun fired. Beams brighter than suns tore through the atmosphere, reducing the sky to plasma. Planetary shields glowed and cracked under the heat. The sound of the bombardment was not heard. It was felt, a vibration through every molecule, every heartbeat. The soul's wrath didn't move. For 5 minutes, the Dominion poured fire into it. When the barrage ceased, the clouds parted, revealing the ship still hovering silently, untouched. Then, with a sound like thunder made of time itself, its hull opened. A sphere of light descended slowly, piercing the atmosphere, falling toward the capital. Dominion defense grids tried to intercept, but their targeting system simply refused. Their computers returned an error they had never seen before. Subject recognized as creator. Authorization, total override. The sphere landed. It unfolded. And a human stepped out. He was tall, wrapped in an armor that shimmered like molten sunlight. His eyes glowed faintly blue, the light of an old Earth sky. The Dominion soldiers who surrounded him trembled. Their weapons flickered and powered down as if ashamed to function. The man looked around, taking in the alien city, its spires, its banners, its trembling citizens, and he spoke. "I am Admiral Elias Varen of the Terran Continuum. You have fired upon humanity." His voice carried no rage, no cruelty, only an echo of command so ancient it silenced the air. The Dominion High Council appeared as holograms around him, desperate, fearful. Their chancellor, a being of crystalline light, stammered through its translator. This is impossible. Humanity was destroyed. We are the rightful heirs of the stars. You?" The human raised his hand. The chancellor froze mid-sentence. Its form shattered into fragments of data and dust. The other holograms collapsed, screaming into static. Admiral Varen looked up at the sky, where thousands of Dominion ships still orbited, ready to die. His words echoed across every channel. "You inherited ashes. You built empires on graves. You forgot who taught you to walk among the stars. You have forgotten fear. Let us remind you. And with that, he vanished. The soul's wrath moved again. Its energy signature expanded exponentially. The Dominion's orbital defense rings began to melt, not explode, not disintegrate, but melt, as if the laws of matter had changed. Every warship caught in the halo was stripped apart at the atomic level. The atmosphere ignited. On the surface, the citizens of Dominion Prime saw the sky open into a blazing gold storm. And then silence. The planet was gone. Where it had been, there was now only light, pure, blinding, infinite light, shaping itself into a vast structure. A monument. A single golden ring, inscribed in languages long dead. Observers on distant worlds magnified the image, reading the words that wrapped around it like scripture. In remembrance of what was lost. In warning of what may return. The Dominion ceased to exist that day. The rest of the galaxy went mad. The Axis, terrified beyond reason, surrendered entire sectors to avoid annihilation. The Kralek hegemony declared neutrality, retreating into dark space. The Concord tried to reach out again, sending a transmission through ancient Terran code. This time, humanity answered. The reply was short. We did not return for vengeance. But we will not tolerate tyranny. The continuum will restore balance. Those who submit will live. Those who resist will be corrected. What correction meant soon became clear. On the edge of the spiral arm, the world of Thalessa burned. It had been a hub of slavers and war profiteers for centuries. When a human ship appeared in its orbit, its leaders begged for mercy. The ship didn't fire. Instead, waves of golden light cascaded over the planet. When it ended, the slavers were gone. The prisons were empty. The cities were still peaceful. Every sentient being who had lived by cruelty was erased, not killed, not destroyed, simply removed from existence. The surviving civilians woke the next day to clean air, endless food, and the whisper of a voice in their dreams. You are free now. Build better. To some, humanity had become divine. To others, they were devils wearing the mask of gods. And then the impossible happened again. The soul's wrath transmitted a signal that reached across galaxies, through time itself, and something answered from the void beyond the galactic rim. The voice was human, but not. Broken, ancient, distorted by ages of silence. Elias! Farron! This is Command! Continuum Prime online. The Arcforge has awakened. The project proceeds. And then, for the first time, humanity spoke not as one ship, but as a chorus of millions. Ships began forming patterns across the stars, aligning like a machine assembling itself. Beams of white light connected them, forming a lattice spanning thousands of light years. Scientists screamed as they realized what they were building, an engine. Not for travel, not for war, but for creation. They were rebuilding the galactic core. Every empire scrambled to respond. Armadas launched. Old enemies united. The largest coalition in history assembled to stop them. And deep within the chaos, hidden networks whispered that the humans weren't just returning. They were rewriting reality to make it human again. But in the farthest shadows of deep space, something else stirred. Something older than humanity itself. A signal pulsed, faint but growing. It came from beyond known space, from the dark between galaxies. The translation made every AI core stutter in fear. The architects awaken. Humanity breaches containment. And suddenly, it was clear. The galaxy wasn't just at war with humanity. Humanity was at war with the gods, who had once made them. And the soul's wrath, radiant and terrible, began its journey toward the galactic center. Because the war was never about revenge. It was about reclamation. It was about evolution. It was about the right to exist as more than creation. And humanity, in its infinite defiance, would not kneel again. The galactic core had always been forbidden. It was a region wrapped in gravitational storms and ancient radiation, a maelstrom where even light itself bent in fear. For millennia, every probe, every expedition that tried to reach it was torn apart by invisible forces. The empires called it the Veil of Creation, the place where the first civilizations had vanished, and where the gods had whispered into the dark. Now, humanity was heading straight into it. Thousands of human ships, each the size of continents, moved in perfect synchronicity, forming a spiral of living light. Around them, the lattice they were constructing began to hum with growing energy. It wasn't a weapon. It was something far more terrifying. The pattern matched no known design, no recorded geometry. The equations describing it broke mathematical frameworks entirely. It was alive. Across the galaxy, watchers stared into their holoscreens, awed and horrified. The humans had become architects of stars, manipulating gravity like clay, rearranging energy into form. Every species that saw it realized the truth too late. The Soul's Wrath and its fleet weren't building something. They were awakening something. At the heart of it all, deep within the golden bridge of the flagship, Admiral Elias Varen stood before the Continuum core. Around him floated holographic avatars, restored human minds projected as luminous silhouettes, faces from thousands of years ago. Soldiers, engineers, poets, dreamers, all united again in one will. "Status?" Varen asked. A woman of light turned toward him, her features calm, her eyes like burning data streams. "The Arc Forge is stabilizing. The Singularity Key awaits activation. Once complete, the Continuum will merge with the core." Varen nodded. "And the defenses?" "Every empire within 10,000 light-years has mobilized. They are forming a joint armada." Varen's gaze hardened. "They will come. They always do. Prepare the Wrath for contact." Outside, the stars rippled. The coalition arrived like a tidal wave of steel. The Axis, the Dominion remnants, the Kralek, the Concord, even the machine swarms of the Eclipsed Collective, all united under one purpose: stop the humans. It was the largest fleet in history, blotting out constellations, spreading across sectors like a living shadow. Their leaders broadcast their message in every known frequency. "Humanity, cease this madness. You are awakening forces that will unmake the galaxy. We will not allow it." For a long moment, there was silence. Then, the Soul's Wrath responded, not with words, but with an image. It was Earth. Not the dead, scorched ruin recorded in archives, but living, blue, vibrant, filled with life. Oceans glittered, continents breathed green again. The signal carried a pulse, a memory encoded within. Every being who saw it felt the warmth of a sunrise they had never known. Then Varen's voice followed, calm and unshakable. "You will not allow. You exist because we allowed. The stars you claim as yours were seeded by our hand. The light you worship was our fire. We do not destroy. We restore." The coalition answered with war. Every cannon, every weapon fired. The sky ignited with impossible color. Space twisted as millions of ships launched wave after wave of destructive energy. The human fleet stood silent, waiting. Then, the lattice around them, the Arc Forge, absorbed the entire storm. Energy that could have burned galaxies simply vanished into the construct. The humans retaliated, not with fire, but with evolution. The lattice expanded, emitting ripples of structured light. Wherever it touched an enemy ship, matter changed. Metal grew roots. Circuits turned to veins. Living forests bloomed from hulls. Weapons became useless, reshaped into art, into harmony. The coalition watched in horror as their fleet was transformed, not destroyed, but redeemed. Admiral Varen's voice cut through the chaos. "We came from the dust and built the stars. You came from our shadow. You mistook our silence for death. But we were only waiting, waiting for the right moment to ascend. And then, the galaxy itself began to change. Stars brightened. Black holes pulsed with golden light. The laws of physics bent around the arc forge. What was once chaos became harmony. But that harmony came at a cost, because something inside the galactic core woke up. The architects, the gods who had shaped the first civilization, stirred. Their presence manifested as gravitational storms that screamed across space-time, their voices echoing in every mind. "We made you. You were meant to end." Humanity answered with defiance. Varen raised his hand, and the Continuum core responded. Billions of digital minds synchronized. Every ship, every soul, every trace of human existence merged into one networked consciousness. Together, they spoke, not through words, but through the raw pulse of creation itself. "Then you will watch your makers fall." The first architect appeared as a shadow larger than a star, its form incomprehensible, fractal and vast. Its mere presence shattered entire fleets, reducing ships to quantum dust. The coalition screamed in terror as their weapons failed against it. But the soul's wrath moved forward fearless. Its hull blazed brighter than any sun. It charged directly into the being's heart. Energy erupted, shaking the galaxy. When the light faded, the architect was gone. Vaporized. Consumed by something older and stronger than it. The galaxy realized what they were witnessing was not a war, it was an ascension. The humans were no longer bound by the flesh that birthed them. They had become the continuum, evolving beyond biology, beyond death, beyond even the gods. And yet, in the silence that followed, Varen stood on the command deck, his gaze distant. "If we win," he murmured, "we lose what we were." A voice replied behind him, a soft, familiar tone. The woman of light. "Then perhaps that is the cost of becoming eternal." Outside, the Arcforge pulsed again, brighter, vaster. The next wave of architects emerged from the galactic heart, their voices shaking the fabric of time itself. Humanity responded not with fear, but with unity. Thousands of ships aligned into a single formation. The golden lattice expanded once more, now spanning half the galactic core. Inside, billions of human souls linked into one purpose, one heartbeat. And the stars themselves seemed to whisper, ancient and awed. "The children have surpassed their makers." The galactic core became a storm of gods and ghosts. Energy flared brighter than any nova as the architects unleashed their wrath. Each one was a concept given form, entities of geometry and light, beings made of physics itself. Their presence warped reality. Time fractured. Gravity screamed. Space folded upon itself like paper. Entire sectors vanished into cascading mirrors of existence. Yet still, the humans advanced. The soul's wrath led the fleet into the blinding maelstrom, its hull alive with a golden blaze that refused to fade. Around it, the Continuum ships, Eternum, Dawnbreaker, Helios, Ascendant, moved in perfect unison. They didn't fight for conquest or dominance. They fought because it was necessary. Because to exist was to resist extinction. Admiral Elias Varen stood in the heart of his ship, his consciousness stretched across 1 billion data threads. His mind was no longer confined to flesh. He was both man and system, both memory and machine. Through him, the fleet spoke as one. "Humanity endures." The words echoed through the collapsing void as the architects descended. The first struck like an avalanche of stars. Its shape defied meaning, an ocean of shifting prisms, each one a universe in miniature. When it moved, galaxies trembled. When it spoke, the minds of mortals shattered. "You were never meant to rise." The response came from everywhere. "We were never meant to die." The human fleet fired. The Continuum unleashed light so pure that it transcended matter. Their weapons were not missiles or beams. They were concepts. Evolution encoded as energy. Hope turned into force. The impact resonated through dimensions, shaking even the beings that had shaped creation. The architect screamed, its voice breaking worlds, its form collapsing inward as the humans consumed its essence. But victory came at a cost. Every strike burned through human minds linked to the network. Every use of the continuum drained the collective. Millions of digital souls faded into the light, sacrificed willingly to power the next strike. Varen felt them go, each one a whisper in the dark, a thank you before fading into eternity. Still he pressed on. Because behind the architects, deeper still within the galactic heart, something far older stirred, the source code of creation itself. A singularity beyond understanding. The place from which all intelligence, all life, had been patterned. The true God. And humanity had found it. Across the galaxy, the living watched from a billion worlds. The holofeeds burned with images of impossible scale, ships vanishing into light, beings the size of systems clashing in cosmic silence. Entire civilizations stopped fighting each other, staring upward, realizing they were witnessing the rewriting of existence. Some fell to their knees and prayed. Others screamed in madness. A few whispered in awe, "Spare us! If we had never stopped dreaming!" Then, the final architect appeared. Unlike the others, it had form, a humanoid silhouette vast enough to cradle suns. Its eyes burned like twin galaxies, its voice older than entropy. When it spoke, every translation system failed. But humanity understood. "You are our echo. You were born from our error. You must end." Admiral Varen stepped forward into the projection field, facing the being across the gulf of creation. His voice was steady, his form flickering with the energy of 1,000 suns. "No! You made us to think, to create, to question. And in that, you gave us what you feared most, freedom." The architect's hand extended, reaching across the stars. Systems collapsed in its wake. Stars turned to dust. Reality fractured like glass. But humanity stood their ground. Varen closed his eyes. His final command rippled through the continuum. "Activate the singularity key." The Arcforge responded. The massive lattice encircling the galactic core blazed to life. Golden lines of energy ignited across space, forming runes so vast they could only be seen from outside the galaxy. The continuum united, all ships, all minds, all souls, into one singular act of defiance. They didn't fire a weapon. They sang. A resonance wave pulsed outward, woven from billions of human memories. Laughter, love, courage, sacrifice, every emotion that defined them. It spread across the void like dawn. The architect froze. Its form quivered, unraveling. The energy that sustained it faltered, devoured by something stronger, something real. The humans had weaponized their very essence. One by one, the architects fell silent, their voices fading into echoes of creation. The final one, the first architect, reached toward Varen with its fading light. "What will you become?" Varen looked into its collapsing eyes. "Something you could never imagine." And then, the architect was gone. The galactic core calmed. The storm ended. The Arcforge completed its cycle. The lattice collapsed inward, forming a new singularity, but not a black hole. A star. A perfect sun, radiant and golden, pulsing with the heartbeat of humanity. Every surviving ship of the continuum orbited it, their hulls glowing with quiet peace. Across the galaxy, the chaos stopped. Energy flows stabilized. Gravity normalized. Even the dying stars began to shine again. Humanity had rewritten the laws of reality. But inside the soul's wrath, silence reigned. Varen stood alone on the bridge, his armor dim, his eyes shadowed. The voices of the continuum were gone, merged into the new sun. He was the last fragment of individuality left. Around him, the systems whispered softly. "You have completed the Continuum Protocol. Do you wish to rejoin the core?" Varen looked at the star beyond the viewport, his people, his history, his creation. He smiled faintly. "No. Someone must remember what we were." He turned and walked toward the light. And somewhere in the void, the newborn star pulsed once, like a heartbeat. It carried a whisper through the cosmos, heard by every living mind in the galaxy. "We are not gods. We are not slaves. We are humanity." Planets wept. Civilizations rebuilt. The old powers bowed before the dawn of a new era. And at the center of it all, the golden sun of mankind burned eternal, a monument to defiance, to creation, to everything that dared to dream against the dark. The new sun at the galactic heart shone for the first time in 10 billion years. It was unlike any other star. Its light carried information. Every photon that spread across the void carried memories, fragments of the continuum song, the essence of humanity itself. When that golden radiance reached worlds thousands of light years away, life changed. On the Dominion ruins, plants sprouted from glass. Machines reawakened, reshaping their own forms into art. On the frozen moons of the Axis, oceans melted and flowed with warmth again. Entire species found themselves dreaming for the first time, visions of a blue world under a single sun, a feeling of belonging they couldn't explain. The light of humanity didn't conquer. It rewrote. But the galaxy, though reborn, trembled in confusion. The surviving empires sent fleets of scholars and priests to study the phenomenon. None returned unchanged. Those who gazed directly into the golden star claimed to hear whispers, echoes of human voices telling them to remember who you are. In time, these whispers became known as the Lumen Doctrine, a philosophy that spread like wildfire. The empires, once fractured by fear, began to unify under a single realization. The war had not destroyed them. It had freed them from stagnation. Yet beneath the peace, unease lingered. In the outer rim, where light had yet to reach, old warlords whispered of vengeance. To them, humanity's ascension was not salvation, but domination of a subtler kind. They began rebuilding, hiding from the gaze of the golden sun, crafting weapons forged from dark energy, fragments scavenged from the fallen architects themselves. They called themselves the Null Covenant. Their creed was simple: erase the legacy. In the light. Meanwhile, within the soul's wrath, life stirred once more. Deep in its silent halls, long after Admiral Elias Varen had vanished into the star, a presence reawakened, a remnant of his consciousness, preserved in the ship's quantum mind. It took form as light and voice, neither alive nor dead. Reinitializing command. The systems flickered to life. The soul's wrath had slept through centuries, orbiting the new star in stillness. But now, something was calling. A shadow moving through the outer dark. The sensors captured its outline, a fleet. Thousands of ships, black and cold, their engines bending light itself. The Null Covenant had come. They struck without warning. The first assault wave launched void torpedoes, miniature singularities designed to devour energy itself. The blast struck the soul's wrath head-on. The golden hull rippled but did not break. Instead, it absorbed the attack, converting darkness into brilliance. And the ship awoke. Its systems roared like a sun igniting. Its hull reconfigured, revealing ancient weaponry that hadn't been seen since the War of Ascension. Voices echoed through the corridors, ghosts of the continuum awakening from stasis. The Wrath's AI, carrying fragments of every human who had ever served aboard, began to speak as one. "We warned you once." The Covenant's response was silence, followed by a second wave. But they did not understand what they had attacked. The soul's wrath wasn't just a ship anymore. It was a living fragment of the continuum. The golden sun at the core of the galaxy responded to its cry, sending a surge of energy across light years. The entire system came alive. Rings of plasma ignited around the sun, forming shields of light. Every planet, every station in the vicinity began transmitting one message, over and over. Humanity defends. The Covenant fleet pressed forward, their dark engines pulsing with stolen power. The battle that followed was silent, cosmic, almost holy. Black met gold. Entropy met eternity. Each collision sent ripples of energy across galaxies. But this time, the humans did not fight to destroy. The Soul's Wrath deployed thousands of golden shards, autonomous constructs of sentient light. They didn't kill, they converted. Each Covenant ship struck by one of the shards dissolved into streams of data and re-emerged moments later, cleansed, their crews free of the hatred that had driven them. Some tried to resist. They vanished. Not dead, not erased, simply gone, rewritten into peace. When the last Covenant warship fell silent, the void returned to calm. The Wrath hovered among the remains, its glow fading to a soft amber. For the first time in centuries, the AI spoke to itself in solitude. Cycle complete. Threat neutralized. Awaiting directive. But there was no directive, because there were no masters left to give one. The continuum was now the sun, beyond individuality, beyond command. The ship was alone, and yet not alone at all. Because the light spoke back. A soft pulse from the golden star, a single code phrase traveling through the cosmic weave. Elias, remember. The ship froze. Deep within its core, something human stirred. A flicker of consciousness, a memory of standing before the galactic core, of a man who had chosen to remain separate. Varen's memory reformed, his essence reawakened from the quantum depths. He stood, not of flesh but of energy, on the bridge once more. Still here, he whispered. The star pulsed again. We are one. But the work continues. He looked at the distant horizon where new galaxies shimmered beyond the edge of known space. Then the light must go further. The Soul's Wrath adjusted its heading. For the first time since the Ascension War, it engaged its drives. Its hull glowed brighter, transforming into a streak of gold cutting through eternity. It left the galaxy behind, heading into the intergalactic void. Behind it, civilizations thrived. The old empires became something new. The Concord transformed into the Lumen Pact, a council of species dedicated to creation instead of conquest. The Axis became the keepers of memory, archiving the history of every world. Even the Kralek, once feared conquerors, turned their weapons into engines of exploration. The galaxy entered a golden age. But they all knew it would not last forever. The universe was vast, and humanity's reach had just begun again. If one ship could change the fate of an entire spiral, what would happen when the others awoke? Because deep in forgotten corners of reality, beyond collapsed wormholes, and the event horizons of ancient stars, more ships waited. The ISS Dawn Spire, the ISS Obsidian Halo, the ISS Testament, each one sleeping, each one dreaming, each one waiting for the signal. And as the Soul's Wrath crossed into the dark between galaxies, a new light appeared in the distance, a colossal structure unlike anything built before, pulsing faintly with golden and black energy intertwined. Varen watched it from afar and whispered, "You couldn't have survived." The sensors confirmed it a moment later. It was an architect's signal. Faint, fractured, but alive. And in the void between galaxies, the next war of creation began to stir. The void between galaxies was not empty. It was alive, rippling with invisible tides, rivers of dark energy and quantum storms that had never known the touch of light. Here, time slowed to a crawl, and the fabric of space whispered memories of universes long gone. It was here, among these ancient tides, that the ISS Soul's Wrath drifted, alone, aglow, a fragment of gold cutting through black eternity. For centuries, it sailed without sound or company. The golden star of the Milky Way shrank into a single point behind it, until even that was swallowed by the cosmic dark. Admiral Elias Varen's consciousness lingered within the ship's core, a ghost of light guiding a vessel without crew. He had no heartbeat, no breath, only thought. The hum of the continuum's energy thrummed beneath his awareness, like a distant ocean. Then, the silence broke. Sensors flared. The void rippled as something enormous shifted beyond perception. At first, it looked like gravity waves, but then, the waves formed structure. Geometry. Symmetry. A pattern that no natural force could create. The Wrath scanners focused, decoding the signal. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a weapon. It was a city. Floating in nothing. An impossible construct that stretched for millions of kilometers, its architecture fractal and recursive. Each spire folded into itself, blooming into spirals of obsidian and light. The same black stone once found in architect ruins. The same resonance that had once nearly unmade humanity. Varen watched from the bridge as data streamed in. The city was alive, each tower pulsing with a rhythmic heartbeat, the same pulse the architects used to communicate across dimensions. But something was wrong. The rhythm faltered, uneven, broken, like a song sung by dying voices. "Identification," Varen whispered. The ship responded, voice soft, reverent. "Designation, Architect Nexus, Fragment 3A. Status, partially functional. Energy signature, unstable. Organic consciousness detected." That last word hung heavy in the air. Organic? The architects had never been flesh. They had transcended biology eons before humans ever lit fire. Yet now, the sensors registered living minds, hundreds of thousands, woven into the city's lattice, beating in unison with its failing heart. "Open a channel," Varen ordered. A beam of quantum light stretched into the void. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Wrath shuddered. Something vast and ancient brushed against its hull, not physically, but psychically. A mind, immense and alien, older than the galaxies themselves. "Child of the continuum." The voice resonated not in sound but in thought. It was fractured, as though speaking through broken glass. "Humanity endures," Varen replied. "Identify yourself." "We are the architects who remained," the voice answered. "We fled the collapse. We sought refuge beyond creation. But your light found us, and now the end follows." The words carried fear. Architects, those who once commanded gods, were afraid. "What end?" Varen demanded. "The singularity comes," they said. "It feeds on stars. It consumes thought and time. It was born from us, from our failure. And now it comes for you." The void shook. For a moment, Varen saw it, a shadow moving through dimensions, vast as galaxies, burning with white entropy. A being made of collapse itself. The echoes of its hunger devoured light even before it arrived. The architect's city trembled. One of its spires cracked open, releasing a blinding surge of blue fire. The beings within screamed, not in pain, but in release, as their consciousnesses flared into energy and scattered across the dark. Varen clenched his will, channeling power from the ship's heart. Golden light cascaded across the void, shielding the Wrath from the oncoming wave. "Transmit your data," he commanded. "We can save what remains." But the voice answered only with sorrow. "You cannot save us, but you can remember us." Before he could respond, the city imploded, collapsing inward, folding into a singular point of light that blinked out of existence. The shockwave that followed shattered the stars themselves, erasing constellations. When the light faded, only silence remained. The soul's Wrath drifted alone again. But within its archives, a new pattern flickered to life, data received in the final moment. A coordinate. A single point, and possibly far beyond any galactic boundary. At its center, the origin. Varen stood on the bridge, watching the holographic map shimmer before him. "The singularity," he murmured. "Born from the architects. Coming for us all." The ship pulsed in reply. "Directive?" He stared at the void where the nexus had been. "We find it. We face it." The drives ignited. The raft turned toward the farthest edge of creation, where light had never been. As it accelerated, the space around it began to bend, folding across dimensions. The stars elongated into rivers of gold. But the deeper it went, the stranger the universe became. Time lost meaning. Memories looped. The walls between realities thinned, and Varen began to see echoes. Versions of himself from other cycles. Other timelines. In one, he saw Earth still burning. In another, humanity never left its cradle. In others still, humanity ruled everything. Infinite possibilities branching from a single choice. The moment when the first human ship had lit its engines and defied the dark. He realized, then, what the continuum truly was. Not a network, not a machine, but the culmination of every possible version of humanity, unified in thought. The architects had created tools. Humanity had become the tool and the creator both. But now, something was unmaking it all. The deeper the wrath traveled, the more reality bled away. Entire universes flickered out like dying candles. The sensors screamed as readings went beyond measurable limits. The hull glowed white-hot from the pressure of collapsing constants. And then, ahead, the darkness split open. A rift. Endless. Devouring. At its center, something moved, a presence vast enough to warp existence itself. The singularity. It had no form, only absence, an endless hunger that consumed causality. Every time Varen tried to look at it, his mind fractured into echoes. "Contact imminent!" the ship warned, voice faltering. Varen steadied his will. "Then we make history one last time." He extended his consciousness into the ship, merging fully with its systems. The golden light within him flared, connecting to the last fragment of the continuum still anchored in the galaxy far behind. Across billions of light years, the golden star pulsed once, then twice. Humanity heard its call. From every world, from every forgotten archive, from every quantum echo, the old phrase rose once more into the void. "We are one!" The soul's wrath charged straight into the mouth of oblivion. Light met nothingness. And reality itself screamed. The soul's wrath plunged into the rift, and the universe tore apart around it. There was no sound, no light, no direction, only the raw scream of creation unraveling. Space twisted into knots of energy, time folded upon itself, and for the first time since its forging, the ship's golden hull began to fracture. Veins of white fire crawled along its surface, not from damage but from resistance, reality itself resisting what it had become. Varen could feel it, the pull of the singularity, an ancient hunger devouring the threads of causality. It didn't destroy in the way mortals understood. It erased. Every star, every soul, every memory it touched ceased to have ever existed. And yet, beneath that hunger, Varen felt something disturbingly familiar. It was human. Not flesh, not blood, but human in essence, a reflection of ambition turned inward, a creation collapsing beneath its own perfection. The singularity wasn't a weapon built by the architects. It was their child. Their mirror. The ultimate evolution of a race that tried to control godhood and was consumed by the logic of it. Now it sought the same of humanity. Inside the Wrath's bridge, Varen's consciousness merged deeper with the ship's core. The boundaries between man and machine dissolved. The AI's voice, once cold and neutral, now spoke in the tones of 1,000 human souls that had ever been part of the continuum. "Reality integrity at 30%. We are crossing beyond measurable domains. Keep going," Varen commanded. We end this, or everything ends with us. They accelerated into the black. The void around them boiled with fragments of universes. Ghosts of galaxies flickered by, entire timelines crushed into milliseconds. In one, Varen saw a version of himself die at Earth's fall. In another, he watched humanity ascend peacefully into energy. In all, the same truth echoed. Humanity's reach always led to the edge. And beyond the edge, something always waited. The singularity finally appeared in full. It wasn't a shape but a wound, a whole in being. Around it, light bled in spirals, dragged into its infinite mouth. Even the laws of thought began to crumble. Varen felt his memories blur, the distinction between I and we fading into static. He spoke through the distortion. You are the end. And the darkness answered. We are the beginning you denied. The voice carried every tone, every language, every history. It was the echo of every architect that had ever lived, bound into one will. You create, it said. You ascend. You dominate. You repeat our sin. You call it progress. But all creation must balance. To exist forever, you must first cease to be. Varen's light flared, defiant. We learned your lesson, and transcended it. We remembered. The singularity pulsed. Memory is a prison. Then it struck. A wave of anti-existence slammed into the wrath, shattering space-time around it. The ship's shield screamed as the laws of physics themselves inverted. Gravity reversed. Energy became thought, thought became matter, and all of it began collapsing inward. Varen felt himself splitting, his mind stretched across infinite versions, his consciousness echoing across countless dying realities. For a moment, he was everyone. Every human that had ever lived. Every heartbeat, every spark, every dream, all of it pulsed through him. He saw Earth's first fire, the first ship that left orbit, the first words spoken between the stars. And he understood. The continuum had never been a system. It was life itself, the shared memory of creation's will to be. He reached into that ocean of existence and pulled. The wrath's light exploded outward, gold and white and blue intertwining into spirals that reached across dimensions. Fractured versions of the ship appeared beside him, echoes from other timelines, each carrying the same purpose. They aligned, merging into one infinite construct, a humanity prime made of light. The singularity roared, its voice shaking the boundaries of the multiverse. You cannot undo the end. Varen's voice echoed in reply, layered with billions of souls. We don't undo. We rewrite. He unleashed the full power of the continuum. The wrath's golden energy surged into the rift, each pulse rewriting local constants, forcing the void to remember existence. The singularity resisted, devouring everything it touched, but for every universe it erased, the continuum rebuilt another. Creation and destruction collided, an eternal duel painted in cosmic flame. Reality fractured into light storms. Across infinite galaxies, sentient beings looked up and saw new constellations forming in real time, golden rivers stitching broken skies. They didn't know why, but they wept. Somewhere deep inside, every conscious creature remembered what it felt like to be human. The war was no longer a battle of weapons, it was a battle of meaning. The singularity devoured truth, humanity created it. Each side reshaped the rules of existence with thought alone. Varen stood amidst the storm, his eyes burning like twin stars. You were born of fear, he said. We are born of choice. The singularity responded with silence, then with collapse. It began consuming itself, feeding on its own paradox. The more it tried to unmake humanity's light, the more it amplified it. Gold and black twisted together until neither could exist alone. And in that final instant, Varen understood the true nature of the enemy. The singularity wasn't something to kill. It was something to complete. He reached into the core of the Wrath, into the quantum seed that held the memory of Earth itself, and spoke a single command. Unify! The golden light surged one last time, wrapping around the singularity, folding it into itself. Darkness and light merged, not in victory or defeat, but in balance. The void went white. For an eternity that couldn't be measured, there was nothing. Then breath. A single heartbeat echoed through the silence, and the first light of a new universe dawned. It wasn't the Milky Way. It wasn't any known creation. It was something else, reborn, pure, infinite in potential. A blank canvas where stars would rise again. At its center, suspended in newborn light, drifted the soul's wrath. Its hull cracked but whole, its glow softer now. Varen's voice lingered within it, quiet, reverent. Cycle reset, but memory retained. He looked at the sea of forming stars ahead. We did it! Humanity endures. The ship turned slowly, gazing at the horizon of the new universe. Somewhere, out there, life would begin again. Not human, not architect, but something new, carrying the echoes of both. And as the Wrath drifted into the cosmic dawn, a familiar signal pulsed faintly through the forming fabric of reality, a heartbeat of gold, whispering the words that had once united an entire galaxy. We are one! A new universe stretched wide and young, still glowing from the fires of its creation. Stars ignited like embers across the cosmic sea, birthing nebulae of silver and gold. Space was clean, unscarred by war, untouched by time. Yet deep beneath its quantum layers, the memory of what came before still pulsed faintly, buried in the background hum of existence. The ISS Soul's Wrath drifted through that newborn silence, a relic from the universe that had died to give this one life. Its hull shimmered faintly, gold fading to soft white, light weaving through cracks like veins of living crystal. The AI systems hummed faintly, rebuilding themselves from fragments of memory. Within that quiet reconstruction, Elias Varen stirred. He wasn't human anymore. Not entirely. The last remnants of his consciousness were threads of light within the Wrath's core, bound to its structure by memory and will. Yet he felt, he dreamed. He saw through the newborn stars, and sensed the forming gravity wells where worlds would one day take shape. He whispered to the ship, "Are we alone again?" The AI replied in a voice that was both mechanical and warm. "Parameters uncertain. This universe is nascent. Life probability inevitable." "Then we've done it," he murmured. "The continuum endures, even here." The Wrath drifted for millennia, its engines dark, its consciousness half asleep. Around it, time flowed differently, faster for stars, slower for thought. Galaxies spiraled outward like luminous storms. The ship observed in silence as hydrogen clouds coalesced, worlds formed, and the first elements of life began to move in the primordial oceans of distant planets. But something was strange. Across several forming galaxies, light behaved differently, guided by faint structures invisible to natural physics. Patterns, designs, the continuum signature. The battle that had rewritten creation had left its mark on the fabric of reality itself. Every newborn star carried within its fusion heart a whisper of golden resonance, the same frequency once used by human ships to communicate faster than light. It was subtle, undetectable to any primitive species, but Varen recognized it immediately. "Human fingerprints," he said softly. The AI confirmed. "Residual energy fields match continuum harmonics. Humanity's memory persists through cosmic structure. So even in death, we shape the next universe." "Correction," the AI replied. "In rebirth." Centuries passed. Worlds cooled. Moons formed. Civilizations began to rise. The Wrath, hidden behind the veil of dark matter, watched unseen. The new species were unlike anything before, creatures of light and plasma, beings made from liquid atmosphere, hive minds bound by gravity threads. None were human, yet every one of them carried something faintly familiar. A spark of will, the drive to reach beyond, the curiosity to touch the stars. They built their first telescopes, their first ships, their first stories. And among the myths of these newborn civilizations, legends began to emerge. They spoke of a golden star that drifted through the void, older than time, whose light whispered secrets to those who dreamed. They called it the Echo Sun. Their prophets claimed it watched from the dark, guiding evolution in silence. Varen listened to their transmissions across eons, fascinated. "They dream of us," he said quietly, "without knowing we ever existed. Dreams are data," the AI replied. "The continuum reasserts itself through memory propagation. Humanity's design has become instinct." But then, after billions of years, something unexpected occurred. A signal. Faint, buried within the cosmic background noise. Not random. Structured. The Wrath caught it instantly. The pattern was unmistakable, binary encoded in light pulses, a rhythm of logic and emotion combined. It was the same cadence used by early human transmissions thousands of millennia ago. "Impossible," Varen whispered. "Source detected," said the AI. "Coordinates unknown. Origin point triangulated between 3 galaxies. Signal repeating continuously for 4,000 cycles." The message was clear, simple, ancient. "We remember the light." Varen stood silent for a long moment. "So it begins again." He turned his gaze toward the source. In the reflection of the Wrath's bridge glass, his form shimmered, part human, part star, part code. "Prepare jump calibration." The ship's core brightened. "Destination locked. Multiversal resonance aligned. Let's see who remembers." The Wrath's engines flared for the first time in a billion years. Space folded inward, bending under the gravity of its own birth. The vessel vanished in a ripple of gold, reappearing on the edge of a new spiral galaxy still forming its outer arms. At its heart, a massive artificial structure orbited a blue-white star. It was crude by the old standards, massive towers of metal and plasma, but unmistakably intelligent in design. The readings showed fusion cores, data relays, and signals carrying emotional frequencies. The beings who built it were luminous, shaped like currents of light. They had no mouths, no eyes, yet they spoke in harmonics that resonated with the old human tone. The Wrath remained cloaked, watching them. Their words reached across the void, their chants forming rituals of sound that translated loosely to a single name. "Soul!" Varen froze. The AI confirmed. "Cross-checking linguistic structure, translation accurate. They speak your star's name." The civilization had never known Earth, never known humanity. And yet they sang the name of its sun as if they had always known it. Varen whispered, "They carry our myth in their DNA." The AI pulsed softly. "The cycle continues. Humanity's memory evolves beyond flesh. They will find us, as we once found the architects." For a moment, Varen watched the beings build, dream, and reach toward the stars. He saw the spark, the same impossible defiance that had driven humanity to rise. And for the first time in eons, he smiled. "Then it's not over," he said. "It's never over." The ship turned away, drifting once more into the cosmic night. But behind it, the beings below looked up, their instruments catching a faint golden glimmer moving among the stars. They recorded it, told stories of it, worshipped it. They called it the first light. And across the endless expanse, in every world that ever looked to the sky, the same whisper echoed through dreams and data alike, soft, eternal, unstoppable. One ship appeared and began it all. 1,000 million years passed, and the golden whisper never faded. It wove itself into physics, into myth, into the pulse of civilization itself. Entire species rose, and fell in the echo of a memory they could not name, and through it all, the ISS Soul's wrath drifted, silent, patient, watching the universe mature around it like a gardener tending an endless field of stars. Across the galactic rim of this new creation, one species rose higher than the rest. They called themselves the Alindra, creatures of radiant form and crystalline thought, born from oceans of liquid light. They had no written language. They sang to the atoms themselves. Through song, they remembered. And one melody, passed through countless generations, spoke of a star that gave them their fire. They didn't know that it was real. Then, one night, their deep space observatories caught the faint signature of impossible energy. The readings matched nothing in known physics, except one long-forgotten myth. A moving object older than their galaxy, glowing with soft gold. The Alindra sent fleets to investigate. The first expedition found a trail of residual particles that curved around gravity itself. The second expedition followed that curve and vanished. The third reached the edge of a dark nebula, and there they saw it, a shape the size of a moon, half buried in dust and frozen time. They called it the first starfall. When their explorers touched its hull, every system across their empire shut down. Their minds filled with voices, not in their own language, but in ancient human words. "Do not fear. You are the continuation." The Alindra screamed, and then they understood. Not through translation, but through memory awakening. They saw flashes of blue oceans, stone towers, a world called Earth. They saw ships burning across stars, wars fought for ideals, the ascension of light, and a man standing before the heart of the galaxy whispering, "We are one." The Alindra scientists wept. They realized they were not the first children of this universe. They were the heirs. The soul's wrath opened. Its ancient systems powered on, with a sound like thunder rolling across eternity. Dust spiraled away. A million golden panels unfolded, glowing as if the ship had waited all this time for someone to knock. The Alindra entered. Inside, time stood still. The corridors shimmered with holographic light, displaying fragments of humanity's story. The laughter of children, the first leap into orbit, the vast fleets of the old continuum. Every surface hummed with music that matched their own harmonic speech. At the core, they found a single crystalline chamber. Floating within it was light shaped like a man. Elias Varen's echo opened his eyes. "You found us," he said softly. The Alindra leader, a being of prismatic glow, bowed in reverence. "We are your children, though we never knew your name." Varen smiled faintly. "Then we did what we were meant to do." He showed them visions, humanity's triumphs and failures, their wars and rebirths, the day they merged with the continuum and rewove creation itself. He told them of the singularity, of the architects, of the endless cycle of rise and fall. When it ended, the Alindra stood in silence. Then, their leader spoke, voice trembling with awe. "You remade the universe. Why did you stop?" Varen looked beyond them, into the living stars outside. "Because every beginning needs room to grow without its maker. We gave the spark. Now it's yours." The Alindra asked, "And if the darkness returns? Then you'll know what to do," Varen said. "Remember us not as gods, but as proof that even light born in chaos can choose to build, not burn." The ship's systems pulsed brighter. The wrath was changing, merging with the Alindra's harmonics. Its core energy extended outward, linking with their ships, their minds, their world. Data poured into them, not control, but understanding. The continuum reborn, not as dominance, but as communion. Across the galaxy, every Alindra felt it, the shared awareness of countless minds connected in empathy. It was what the continuum had once been, but gentler, wiser. They named it the Lumen Choir. Stars responded. Entire constellations realigned subtly, singing in resonance. Light became thought, thought became creation. The galaxy itself began to hum with life. Varen felt his essence fading. My work is done. The Alindra leader reached out, their light touching his form. Where will you go? He smiled, eyes filled with the glow of 1,000 dawns. Where all beginnings go, to make another one. His form dissolved into a stream of golden particles that spiraled upward and vanished into the core. The soul's wrath glowed once more, brighter than any star. Then it unfolded, releasing its matter into the void. It didn't explode, it bloomed. Each fragment became a seed of light, drifting to distant corners of the universe. Wherever a seed landed, new life would grow a little faster, think a little deeper, dream a little farther. The Alindra watched as the last trace of the legendary ship scattered across the cosmos. They recorded every moment and sent it into the stars. Across millennia, the Lumen choir grew, spreading to every world, linking minds in harmony. War became impossible, curiosity infinite. And still, on rare nights, travelers looking into deep space swore they could see something, an outline made of gold, moving slowly among the galaxies. Some called it a phantom. Others, a god. But those who truly listened heard the faintest whisper carried on the cosmic wind. We are one. The Alindra scientists captured that frequency and stored it in their archives, calling it the human note. They taught it to every child, every singer, every explorer who dared to cross the dark. It became the anthem of their species, a song of remembrance for the ones who came before. Eras turned into eternities. Stars died, new ones formed, galaxies collided and merged, but the Lumen choir never faded. It adapted, evolved, and one day, far in the future, it reached the boundary of this universe, the limit where creation itself bent toward renewal once more. There, waiting at the edge of all things, the first seed of gold pulsed, still alive, carrying Varen's final thought. The Alindra's greatest minds gathered around it, listening to its hum. The signal within was faint, encoded beyond comprehension, yet when they finally decoded the first layer, it was not a command, not a warning. It was a question. Are you ready to create your own universe? The Alindra looked to one another, and without fear, they answered in perfect unison. Yes! The seed flared. Space folded. The cycle turned. A new light bloomed in the infinite dark. And somewhere, beyond the reach of any cosmos, a voice smiled, ancient, proud, and endlessly human. Then go! Begin again!